Hello, good evening. You're tuning into AWANI Tonight with me, Saraya Mia. SC wraps up probe into Azam Baki's case but cannot confirm if he breached trading regulations. And recent flooding exposes gaps in urban planning. More on that right after this. The Securities Commission, or SC, said it has not been able to establish whether MACC chief Tan Sri Azam Baki broke the law over his controversial ownership of shares. The capital market regulator said, as it concluded its inquiry, that based on evidence gathered, the Commission is not able to conclusively establish that a breach has occurred under Section 25(4) of the Securities Industry Central Depositories Act 1991. Section 25(4) provides that a trading account must be opened in the name of the beneficial owner or authorized nominee. Azam's share dealings have come under scrutiny in the last month. He has been accused of purchasing millions of stocks and warrants in public listed companies. He denied any wrongdoing, saying the shares were bought by his own brother, Nasser, using his account. Meanwhile, Tan Sri Azam Baki was urged to show up when summoned by the Parliamentary Select Committee, PSC. 4 Pakatan Harapan members of the PSC set to question the MACC chief tomorrow over his share trading controversy said Azam cannot override the parliament. They also pressed for PSC chairman Abdul Latif Rahman to review his decision to cancel the meeting. Kota Melaka MP Khoo Poy Tiong said the meeting should go ahead even if Azam did not show up, as there were other matters the PSC needed to discuss, including who else to summon for questioning. Azam had given 3 reasons on why he could not show up for the meeting: his civil suit against a whistleblower involving the issue, that there was no private member's bill tabled for him to be summoned to Parliament, and that other agencies were investigating the matter. Khoo rebutted the MACC chief, saying PSCs had probed many cases that involve ongoing defamation suits and court cases, but could still summon individuals involved. A group of civil society organizations and political youth wings will stage a rally in Kuala Lumpur this Saturday. This is to urge authorities to take action in the share trading case involving the MACC chief. The Tangkap Azam Baki Committee, a loose coalition of 25 groups, will gather outside Sogo at 11 a.m. on Saturday. They outlined 3 demands. They want authorities to arrest Azam immediately, initiate legal proceedings against him, and reshuffle the MACC while putting it under the purview of Parliament. They say these demands are to prevent episodes of corruption from repeating over and over again in the country. In other news, the Malaysian Medical Association MMA urged authorities to impose full force of the law against those issuing and selling fake COVID-19 vaccine certificates. Over the past 2 weeks, there were arrests made in different parts of the country involving those selling fake certificates. In Selangor alone, it is believed that at least 5,600 had been sold. MMA President Dr. Koh Ka Chai said it supported the sternest action taken against any medical practitioner found to be involved in such irresponsible and criminal acts, and that they will be filing a police report of their own based on a complaint it received recently. Koh added that any doctor found guilty can have their practicing license revoked by the Malaysian Medical Council, adding that the Health Ministry should also have their clinics closed. The recent flooding disaster to hit the country served as a harsh wake-up call on the urgent need to address long-term risks from climate change and uncontrolled development. We speak to Renard Siu, a climate change expert, on the importance of effective urban planning to mitigate future natural disasters.
And I think there is something to be said, right, about the need for more proper urban planning. So especially for developers, I think it's very important to ensure that they start integrating climate and flood risks in their planning. This also means that not developing in areas that have been demarcated, right, as flood retention points. I think this, this is actually an important flood mitigation strategy. So it's important that there is no overdevelopment in such areas. So these are some of the key things that I think need to be looked at. Of course, having said so, I think there are also other strategies For example, depending on context, of course, there's a need to start looking at whether we need to deepen our rivers or drainage systems. Because what scientists have said is that even though this might seem like a 1 in a 100-year split, but the fact of the matter is, with the climate crisis happening, they are happening a lot more frequently. We are expecting stronger storms, typhoons to hit, and sea levels are definitely rising.
Global warming is dangerously close to spiraling out of control. A UN climate panel in August last year warned that the world is already certain to face further climate disruptions for decades, if not centuries to come.
Science is clear, like extreme weather events such as floods, droughts, heat waves, they used to only cover about 0.1% of our entire Earth's surface. But that number in just the last decade have increased about 14.1%, which means that it's actually 14 times more likely for us to be witnessing such catastrophic events. And mind you that prior to the floods in Malaysia, we have also seen such events happening back to back, in China, in Germany, and New York. So they are happening a lot faster, more frequently, and we have to start preparing for this.
Malaysia says Renard needs an immediate and clear roadmap for climate adaptation strategies.
What is important is ensuring that no one is left behind, as per the principles of the Sustainable Development Goals. So, everyone needs to come on board. It's not just the government, but civil society organizations, making sure that indigenous communities living in rural areas are also coming on board to provide their inputs on such a plan. But, a plan at the end of the day, I think it's not just, on paper. I think it's important that, we also look and pilot tests to see whether it's actually robust and resilient enough for us to tackle the current challenges ahead. So I think a lot remains to be done, to be honest, but I'm optimistic that we will get there.
Time for a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. MSC Malaysia will be renamed as Malaysia Digital. Speaking at the initiative's launch at the World Dubai Expo, Malaysia Digital Economy Corporation MDEC Mahathir Aziz tells us what changes and enhancements will take place with the rebranding.
We are at 22.6% based on the current data in terms of the size of digital economy's contribution to GDP. We have targets that is a bit more ambitious than that, which is about 25%. And over the years, we actually have generated more than 300 billions of our business, ringgit. We have created close to 200,000 jobs, specifically on digital and technology jobs. So again, the achievements that Malaysia has had is over 25 years. But then again, when you look at how we develop this, everything is cut short. So we have to accelerate, we have to keep up, we have to adapt based on the landscape of the economy and also the development of technologies as well.
Mahathir emphasized to remain competitive, Malaysia needs to learn from other countries and improve its offerings to the world.
For the past maybe 8 to 10 years is that the other countries around ASEAN region have leapfrogged us. Indonesia, obviously Singapore, Thailand and also Vietnam. We haven't counted the Philippines and things like that. So there are aspects of strengths coming from other nations that we have to look around and compare and benchmark ourselves against the offerings that Malaysia has against what the others would have. Hence, I think the need for Malaysia Digital to come in as a refreshed, rebranded, repackaged MSC or MSC 2.0, that would be number one. I think the other part that we want to be able to look at is to collaborate with other nations. Competition is, to a certain level, we can do that, but actually look at the strengths of other nations and capitalize on that and work together, propose ASEAN to the rest, the China or India or even Europe as well.
You can catch the full interview on Notepad with Ibrahim Sani this Friday, 10:30 p.m. only on Astro, AWANI. On the foreign front, the United Nations said the Pacific island nation of Tonga suffered significant damage in the volcanic eruption on Saturday. Satellite images show the island covered in thick ash with some villages entirely destroyed. The true extent of damage remain unknown as communications have been severely affected, with some smaller islands completely cut off. The 7.8 magnitude earthquake triggered a tsunami for countries around the Pacific, including Peru, where 2 people have known to have drowned. The eruption was so powerful that it was heard more than 750 kilometers away in Fiji. New Zealand, other nations and relief agencies are sending ships carrying water and other supplies, but planes are finding it difficult to land because of a thick blanket of ash at the main airport. Meanwhile, the Indonesian parliament today passed a law to relocate the nation's capital from Jakarta to East Kalimantan. This means the construction of the new capital, called Nusantara, can soon begin. The new state capital law stipulates how development of the $32 billion mega project will be funded and governed. President Jokowi first announced the relocation plan in 2019, but progress was delayed by the pandemic. Indonesia has envisioned the new capital as a low-carbon hub that will support pharmaceutical, health and technology sectors and promote sustainable growth beyond Java Island, where Jakarta is located. But critics say the law was rushed through with limited public consultation and environmental consideration. In other news, Thailand plans to decriminalize marijuana, moving a step closer to clearing it for recreational use. The Food and Drug Administration is set to propose to remove cannabis from a list of controlled drugs to the Narcotics Control Board tomorrow.
Once cleared by the board, the proposal will need approval by the Ministry of Health before it becomes effective. The move could allow people full access to marijuana. Currently, possession of cannabis could result in jail for up to 15 years, as the plant is a Category 5 narcotic drug. Thailand was the first country in Southeast Asia to legalize medical marijuana and its use in food and cosmetics.
Tickets for the Beijing Winter Olympics kicking off February 4th will be sold to targeted groups and not to the general public. International spectators are also barred to enter the Games under China's strict COVID-19 prevention policies. In a statement on Monday, the International Olympic Committee said tickets will only be sold to spectators living in mainland China who met certain COVID-19 safety requirements. It cited a grave and complicated situation of the pandemic, with Beijing reporting its first case of the Omicron variant just 3 weeks before the Games is set to begin. The Winter Games, to be held in Beijing and Hebei, will take place in a closed loop that will keep athletes and other Games personnel separated from the general public, while most participants will arrive on special charter planes. That's all we have for you on AWANI tonight. Get the latest news updates from astroawani.com, or you can download the Astro AWANI app. I'm Saraya Mia, wishing those celebrating a very blessed Taipusam. We'll see you again soon.